On my way to work this morning, and I realized the irony, walking down from right near Parliament House, where I haven't been in a while, and locals know that the hill up here is overrun with rabbits. They're an invasive species in, well, frankly, the entire country, but they tend to cluster in certain areas, and this is one of them. Wasn't planned, but the irony is that rabbits are known or notorious for breeding. There's an expression, breeding like rabbits. And this week's said there, Tazriaʻ, ki Tazriaʻ, Ishad ki Tazriaʻ, starts off by talking about reproductive issues. When a woman conceives and gives birth to a child. It talks about the period of tum'ah. Hard to translate the concept of tum'ah. There's no actual word for it in English. Traditionally sometimes translated as unclean, which I hate because it has a negative connotation, and it's not. It's not a judgment. It's not physically icky. I've seen it translated as contaminated, which, okay, might be. Sounds a little more clinical. Doesn't imply the judgment of unclean. I don't know. Cooties. It is a purely spiritual matter. Just as a concept of sterility, shall we say, in laboratories and the like, physical sterility from pathogens and the like. There's a spiritual concept of maintaining a certain degree of purity, I guess. I know impurity is a way of translating tumah, which might not be so bad. There's a certain spiritual sterility that's required to remove oneself from any matters that can generate tumah. And, I don't know, cooties, maybe. Anyway, it's a purely spiritual concept. It says that when a woman gives birth, she's in a state of tumah. This has very often been used in polemics against Torah, that the Torah is misogynistic, that a woman in her natural biological functions attains a state of uncleanliness. Especially when you use that term, it sounds horrible, doesn't it? The fact is that there are many natural matters which can lead to tumah. A man as well. A man who ejaculates is in a state of tumah. It's a normal biological function. But I've never seen polemicists attacking that. Look, I'm not much to engage in apologetics. But I think that unfair attacks should be called out. And that's one of them, in my opinion. Now, an explanation as to why a woman would end up in a state of tumah. The best explanation I've heard, at least to my opinion, and you may take it or leave it as you wish, is that a woman has life inside of her, growing, a new child. When that child is born, it leaves a sort of vacuum behind. And that itself is amenable to tumah. Susceptible, if you will. Tumah is a spiritual matter. Life is a form of spirituality in itself, or spirituality is a form of life. They go hand in hand. Which is why a dead body is the most severe sources of tumah. The dead body itself, what can be more anti-life than that? Well, here there's a potential for life that has left this woman's body. My apologies, there's actual life. A woman who menstruates is also considered to be in a state of tumah, and that's the explanation for that, because it's a potential for life. In this case, it's actual life that's left the woman's body. Why, then, is it that there's a difference between the male and the female? If a woman has a male child, she's tameah for 7 days. A female, she's tameah for 14 days. Again, this is often pointed to as misogyny in the Torah, and I think that's misplaced. A male child is life in itself. A female child is not only life in itself, but is life that can grow and have the potential to grow life within itself as well. Sort of reminds me of the concept in Darwinian theory, in biological evolution, that we all hear the term survival of the fittest. It doesn't mean the ability to have offspring that grow up, because if those offspring are all sterile, then you failed at the genetic game. It's the ability to have offspring that they themselves can grow up and have offspring someday. In other words, the perpetuation of the genes. And I see a parallel in this. A female child is one that can itself grow up and create life in future. And that itself is a greater force of life than the male child. As such, the evacuation of this fetus from the mother leaves a greater void behind it. There's a greater tum'ah to it, one that requires a longer period of time. I don't know, maybe that's not a fair explanation. It hit a chord with me, maybe it doesn't with others, and that's fine. Just understand that there are many approaches. And if one's looking to be a polemicist, then one will find a way. If one's looking to be an apologist, one will find a way. I think ultimately you find what you're looking for, and maybe that's the lesson here. I don't know. I just know that it's important not to be a polemicist and not to be an apologist. It's important to call out what you see as wrong, to call out improper arguments and to defend against those, but to be honest in your approach. Shabbat Shalom.